everybody hold on to your butts because we've got a new image from JWST, and this weird looking thing contains potentially a huge discovery. This is the Infinity Galaxy because it looks like an infinity sign, and actually what you're seeing are two galaxies that have collided. We think that this used to be two separate spiral galaxies, each with big bulges, what we call the central part of a galaxy that has a lot of stars concentrated in one area. We still see the bulges of the galaxy existing, but the rest of the stars in the spiral arms were swept into these rings, forming that infinity sign shape. But the most interesting part of this galaxy is actually this region in the center here, because this galaxy was also observed by different telescopes sensitive to different wavelengths of light. Here the contours are showing where radio emission is coming from, and it's pretty well centered on that big bright spot in the JWST data. We also see a lot of X-ray emission there represented by these giant pixels. And the only thing that really makes sense to explain that radio and X-ray data is if there is a supermassive black hole that is currently actively eating up a bunch of material found in this middle region here. Now you might think that's not that weird. There are black holes in every galaxy, and in fact we expect that there is a supermassive black hole contained in each of these two bulges here, so that this is actually a 3 black hole system. But this is not in the center of a galaxy, which is where we find every other supermassive black hole. This is sort of weirdly in between, and there's a few ways it could have gotten there. Maybe the black hole isn't a part of this system at all, but contained in another third galaxy that just happens to be in this part of the sky, although we don't actually see that galaxy at all in the data. Or maybe it's a runaway black hole. It was formed in another galaxy, ejected somehow, and made its way here to become a part of this collision. But there is another possibility. What if this supermassive black hole in between these colliding galaxies actually just formed there? Because if it is forming there, then we are witnessing the formation of a black hole in a way that we have never seen before. The only formation pathway that we're pretty confident about is black holes forming from the collapse of massive stars. But that only gives you pretty small black holes, not supermassive ones like this one. No, if this black hole has actually formed in this collision, it wouldn't have formed from one star, but rather from the direct collapse of a giant cloud of gas. This could be how all supermassive black holes were formed, collapsing from big clouds of unstable gas early on in the universe. But we're not entirely sure how that process would work or if it's actually feasible. So if we can see that process happen a bit later on in the universe and more nearby galaxies like this one, it could be huge for changing our understanding of how black holes form and evolve. But we're not certain that's what's going on here. We need more information. We need to better understand the conditions of this gas. We need to understand how the black hole is moving relative to the gas and these other galaxies, and we need to understand if this formation pathway is feasible. So a lot more study is needed before we make any really big claims here. For now, this supermassive black hole remains mysterious, and there is a lot still to learn about this fascinating system.